Again, thank everyone for being here. Um, we have LaOta of the Sun here, and we're going to have a discussion concerning the upcoming class energetic work classes that she's teaching, and the inspiration behind the work and why it is so important that we pursue our wellness energetically as much as we do physically, um, and mentally as well. I'd like to start by expressing that our goal for this conversation, and the rest of the conversations that we're going to have today, is to not just build value for this kind of work, but also to bridge the gap for a lot of us who are um, what we would consider regular day-to-day people who just are casually interested in energetic work or wellness and things like that. I want to bridge the gap so that it does not seem like it is a overwhelming pursuit to get into the energetic sphere, uh, the wellness sphere, or any of these things. That's kind of our interest, and that's why we wanted to take the opportunity to have a conversation. Um, you have a YouTube channel, you have classes and a business where you are frequently speaking about the work that you do, um, at the level that you do it at. You speak about it at a very like rich and authentic level of your truth and the reality of what you do. A lot of people are not as familiar language wise or some of the concepts and things like that. So I want to take this opportunity to bridge the gap and be a part of the um, the ones who don't know or don't understand, being a part or a resource to helping people understand where we're going and what guidance you have to give. The topic of your class is raising the vibration of your food. And that's going to be taught next week here at the Sundome. And it's going to be available virtually too. Um, but before we get into some of the intriguing things about raising the vibration of your foods and the purpose of it, I'd like to explore what's the inspiration behind raising the vibration of your food. What is the real goal here with raising the vibration of your foods and or any of the other energetic work that you're teaching? I'd like you to share a little bit about that.
May I begin with history that will help elucidate that topic?
Yeah, of course.
So, we're going to begin really at the beginning. This planet was terraformed, it was seeded from the divine matrix of the cosmos. So, our food came here through the food gods who came to bring the food for those who live inside the earth and those who live outside the earth. And the idea of food is often, it's like when somebody walks up to somebody and says, "What's a woman?" And then the person doesn't have the language to describe what they actually do know. So, what is food? Food is the gift from other intelligences, other consciousness that existed in the cosmos, who came here to be of service to us and give us everything, all that they are, willingly and on purpose and by design. And so there's a huge misunderstanding among different people who are in different genres of food, but food is here willingly to be our food, that which is food. But there is much that is not food. There is much that is imitating food, masquerading as food, dressed up like food, pretending to be food. So there is that. So the idea that the richness of the reality of the gift of nutrition is not an accident, and it's not coming from Kellogg's. Mm-hmm. It came by design through the intelligence of a sentient, conscious relationship with Mother Earth. And the other really important aspect, I mean, I really went to the beginning, but the other really important aspect is that This is a system in which everything in the system comes from the periodic table that is part of the planet, along with the Platonic solids, air, earth, water, fire, and ether. All of that is within a closed system. So what grows upon the earth, the peppermint, the basil, the broccoli, all that grows upon the earth grows from the same vat of ingredients that we are grown from. So we, no matter who our ancestors are, if you're born from parents on the planet, you are made of the materials that are on the planet and in the earth. So is the food. So the food is our cousin. So we are related. You know, when you go in the produce department, be like, there's my red pepper cousins. That's my celery half sister. You know, what is real remains real. And those are aspects of us that we can call upon as us to be in service to us. So that's the idea of it. But I'm not sure if I answered your question.
I'm interested in knowing the aspect of how is this a form of reclaiming our power or stepping into our power? I have a little bit of an idea in the sense that the typical experience of us in the world is based in us being given guidelines or outlines to how our lives will be lived. And we do our best to be in harmony or be in order with those guidelines. But at the same time, we try, the ones of us that are here as an example, we try to expand and push a little bit back on some of these guidelines and some of these boxes that were put in and some of these outlines that are established for us. And our food is a great example of that. We go in the grocery store and these are the options that's available to us. You can get it this way, you can get it this way, you can get the vegetables with the pesticides, you can get the processed food, you can get the this, the that, and that. These are your options. Take it or leave it. We're going to take it because we got to eat. That's kind of our experience as a whole in humanity right now. But the idea of reclaiming our power or stepping into our power being that we don't have to be a victim to what's put on the vegetables, to what's put in the, you know, the foods and the things. And we can use our energy work practices to raise or to take the frequency from those foods higher, being how we take on our power. So can you share me a little bit more about how, what's the bridge from me thinking, oh, I want better, and then to me stepping into that in a reality where if I don't have a farm to do that?
This is such a great question because this gives me an opportunity to give context. Mm-hmm. The context that we live within. We are in the middle of an empire that's deconstructing. We are being herded and imprisoned on this planet. We are being pushed into things that we want to do and things we don't want to do. We're being controlled. And our food is having the same experience. Our food is being chemicalized, and it's really not what it was originally meant to be. This is the time when humanity has an opportunity to truly gain sovereignty. The relationship with our food can be one of sovereignty. Whether you're growing microgreens or sprouting alfalfa sprouts for 3 days and eating them. The idea that we can choose purity if we choose it. We can choose not to be part of an industrial food experience that diminishes us. We can choose to speak directly into our aspect of ourself that is represented as food in our reflection and say, I really need some power. Can you pull from where you have to pull from your intended purpose and give it to me so that I can be the recipient of your intended purpose to nourish me? So that's not the language that I would use, but that's the idea. That's the concept.
And that works with what? What are our options to do that with? Is that when we're at the Indian restaurant on Sundays eating that food? Is that the cousins, like you said, the peppers that are in the store? What can we use that resource, that asking it to raise its vibration and nurture, give us nutrition? What do we use that on?
Well, so, there's a lot of confusion about what is real and what is not, what is natural and what is not. The reality is there's nothing on the planet that's not natural, even if it's not for consumption. So what is natural, we can speak to it and call back its blueprint. But we often we choose to speak to the lowest aspect. So you're trying to make a hot dog be the right thing for you.
Gotcha.
You know. You got your work cut out for you. However, whatever aspect of that you can affect, you can affect. But it's really this idea that the further each thing is taken from its original aspect. So a thing grows. Let's take wheat. A thing grows, then it dies, then it's gathered, then it sits around and gets moldy and gets funguses and bacteria in it, and then it's crushed. And then it's kneaded, and then it's mixed with some other stuff, and then it's baked, and then it's presented as nutrition to you. Or you could take a mango off a tree and eat it. There's the difference is that the level of distortion, how far the distortion is what you're working through. So when you look at something, if you're looking at a plum, let's take a grape. If you're looking at a grape, it's juicy, it's clearly magical. You can do things with it. You can eat it. You can play with it. You can make wine out of it. You can do that with your feet. You can do it with your hands. It's like it's got all of its original, if it has not been organically destroyed through the processes of agriculture. So grapes are on the list with tomatoes of the dirty dozen, the dirtiest foods that exist in humanity at the time. Grapes are on the list. So they have taken that and poisoned that. But as it is a grape and you're looking at it, you can connect with it and you can ask it to remember its blueprint and to use its blueprint to interact with its intended purpose with your blueprint. That's different than asking a piece of pizza to do that.
Yeah.
So I have a little insight, it's not one size fits all. Like, I feel like people will talk about vegan diet, vegetarian diet. Do you feel, or like there's people that are meat eaters, do you feel like each person, it's different for them with the vibration? Do you feel like a meat eater can have high vibrational meats? Like my dad grew up, they raised their cattle, they raised their farms. Do you feel like that energy can still be put in, or do you feel like it has to be a certain diet?
It's really this idea, I'm really glad you asked this. It's really this idea, are we what our ancestors were? No. Could we walk around in armor and ride on a horse with armor and get a sword? Are we that? Are we built like that? I don't think we're really quite what we once were. Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing. There's nothing wrong with eating meat. We recommend it. Mm-hmm. And the reason why we recommend it is not enough evolution has taken place. Mm-hmm. If your father and mother ate meat and their parents ate meat and their parents, there have not yet been enough generations in between to mean that your biology doesn't need that level of protein. Mm-hmm. But there are options, and what we recommend is buffalo, fish from Alaska. And we don't recommend that you're eating 3 deli sandwiches a day. We recommend that you might have 6 ounces a week of clean protein. And I have raised children, many children, who were, when I did not understand that concept, and raised them vegetarian, where their teeth were too small and their jaws were not big enough. So I learned it the hard way. I didn't actually believe that,
Mhm.
but I learned it through raising children and seeing that they needed a little animal protein, especially the boys,
Mhm.
in their diet because their ancestors, they had not evolved away from the ancestors enough. So if your ancestors lived by the sea, you probably need to eat fish.
Right.
If your ancestors, you got ancestors that lived on a farm, then you want to eat clean, lean, small amounts of food, of meat, like that. So it is individual, but there are some broad strokes. You still need to build teeth and bone. You still need what's inside the bone. You still need the information from the planet that you live on through your ancestry.
Mhm.
You don't really have an option with that. I have somebody who's in the audience who has a story about that. Tavares
So
has a story about that.
before we get too far into what we eat, I'd like to kind of hone in on if you're going to. It's a great example of using protein or meat as the topic because that's live. That's alive. And how should we communicate with, or should we be focused on, like Aria said, striving to have high vibration or raise the vibration of our protein if we're going to be the ones eating protein? How's that work?
So the way I'm going to answer this may seem a little like I'm going around the bend, but I need to do it this way. The idea of, one, we have been misinformed about protein. So sometimes when I have a client and I'm saying, they say, well, this is what the internet said. I'm like, I know. I know that's what the internet says. I'm aware. But the reality is you've been eating too much meat all your life that's poison, and that all disease comes because we are contaminated with poison. If we remove the poison, we won't be sick.
Mm-hmm.
So our meat is sick.
Mhm.
So we need to eat meat that's not sick. It's not more complicated than that. We need to eat fish that are not farm raised and not contaminated. We need to that swim around in clean water. We need to have animals who are not mistreated. What is done to chickens and farm animals is so unfortunate and so sad when you consider, remember where I started, they came to this planet to be our food. They would not exist. Chickens wouldn't exist in the wild, and they don't exist in the wild unless you're in, walking around Hawaii and there's some roosters. But the reality is that the food came here to be of service to us, and we have mistreated it and made it sick, and now it's killing us. So it's not the food's fault. It's not like food is our enemy. It's that humanity has been the enemy of food. We have, through greed, created circumstances where food is contaminated because it is miserable because of the way we treat it. I have seen videos of cows who've been stuck in the barn all winter, who hop up and down when they get outside. They go, oh, grass outside. I get to feel the earth. There's green things here, and that's an indicator that we have deprived them of what they need. We have accused them of polluting the planet, when in fact the intelligence that bought cows, chickens, lamb, and all other food here that's living food was more intelligent than we have been. And that I know what you read on the internet, but some of it's just not true. So this idea of choosing food from sources, if you know somebody who's raising sheep who will make some of the sheep available for human consumption and they're treating the sheep right, then that's something you can eat in small amounts. We don't need a 24-ounce steak of anything. we don't need a slab of meat. Our ancestors didn't need a slab of meat either. When they would go and hunt and bring something back, the whole village had to eat it before it was spoiled, and then they might not eat it again for another month or two. Mm-hmm. So we have to kind of go back to some of the more indigenous understandings of how food should be. And the biggest thing is the reverence for the food, the reverence for the animal that is giving up its life. When the American Indians would, in the early days, they would have messengers who would run from one village to another. It would sometimes be many days. Like, take this message to so-and-so and so-and-so, and they're doing their run, and they got tired and hungry. But all they have is a knife. They don't have nothing else. They're a messenger, and they got the message. And they're like, I'm hungry. Rabbit, will you come to me so I can be nourished? Rabbit, you know that 7 minutes you just did earlier of right thinking? And that 7 minutes like, rabbit. Would you come to me? And then the rabbit, which is food. It's, you know, some things are food, some things are not. Humans are not food, dolphins are not food, rabbits are food. They come as that. So the rabbit presents itself, and all things go the way they need to go. The rabbit is satisfied. It has been a gift. It has been of service. The person is so grateful. Thank you, rabbit, for making yourself available to me so that I can have the nourishment, so that I may go on and do my task and fulfill my purpose in my tribe. This is the way the indigenous have worked. When in Africa, when people go out to hunt, they pray that what they need will come to them, and that it will be successful, and that the whole village can be fed. And then everything is in accord. So this idea of us looking for the right thing to nourish us, and then being grateful at the deepest possible level that we have such a thing, that is what will heal you. It is that energy that gets rid of the things that are maladies. It is not what makes us sick, is having no respect and no concern for our own physicality. Like, I don't care what I eat, I'm just hungry. I'll just take anything, you know, and I don't care where it came from, because I'm too high to care.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to express what I understand from kind of where we started to where we are now. There's the aspect of being in gratitude and being in relation with what we're going to put in our bodies, and a lot of times that looks like Aria, I know you pray before you eat every time you eat. A lot of people, I don't. A lot of people, when I remember, like, oh, I'm so grateful, and then sometimes I'm just too hungry, I just eat. But either way, that's one area, is the relationship and the prayer, or the moment of identifying and that acknowledgement of what you're going to get. There's also the aspect that we spoke about the clearing a path for success, or for nutritional experiences, through planning and sourcing what you get, not in the moment that you're hungry or starving or need food, but through thought, through growing microgreens like Tavares does and others do, through sourcing and building relationships with people who have the well-intended and well taken care of things like that. So there's your direct relationship with what you're about to put in your body. There's your clearing a path for success through your planning and preparation and your building of community to get the things that have the best value. And then there's the aspect of even the things that you need. An example of this that I just thought of was, or what I thought of it when you were speaking was, you got white rice, you got brown rice, you got wild rice, you got quinoa. You have different variations. You can try your best to raise the vibration and get the original nutrients that the white rice has within it. But what it's going to have to offer, even as you raise the vibration, even as you call it back to its original nutrients, it has very little to offer. So a part of our journey is not just raising vibration, but identifying and acknowledging and making the choices to say, all right, I'm going to take a step in the direction of more nutrients. I'm going to get quinoa or brown rice or the wild rice or something along those lines. So there's multiple different areas of how we choose to be empowered in our food experience, is what I'm understanding you to say. Now, I'd like to know about, away from food for a second, the concept or the idea of us stepping into power and stepping out of being victims in our experience, and why this is the topic, even though we're relating it to food. The bigger overarching picture is about us becoming within our power and choosing to be sovereign, choosing to be empowered in all of our experiences. What's the importance and the need for that?
You said so many interesting things. May I answer a few of the first ones, and then you remind me about the second
I'll
one?
keep you on track.
Yes, keep me
I
on track.
got you.
Keep me straight. Straighten me out. So the idea of Aria prays over her food, and sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. You would try to remain grateful. It is about, who are we? Are we grateful beings? It's more about, let our practices be our worship. Let us choose to honor self in all of our choices and everything that comes out of our mouth. And then we become the frequency that then changes the material reality in front of us to whatever degree that's possible. So it is the practices that are the worship. It is not the other way around, where you worship and hope you can practice it. It's that other way. So, however, traditionally, people knew to be grateful for it. They knew, oh, thank you for this food. Oh, I'm so glad. I was hungry. I've been hungry for like a week. Oh, I'm so grateful. So we knew that. And we also knew that without refrigeration, I've lived in Africa where there was no refrigeration. Without refrigeration, the food somebody gives you a chicken and it might have something else in 2 or 3 days because there's no refrigeration.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was in Africa, they would put cayenne pepper all over the chicken and put it on a shelf if they were going to cook it the next day to keep the bacteria down, and that worked. And so in hot countries, the food is often hot because it's a method of preserving and keeping it clean from bacteria and other things like that. So this idea of praying was also like, let me raise the vibration so the frequencies of bacteria and fungus and viruses will not be in my food. And people understood they had the power through their will to make that so, to keep that down. So traditionally, people have always prayed. There's certainly nothing wrong with that, but that's not what I'm teaching. I'm not having a class on how to pray to your food, although we are in honor of it. I'm saying let's use some power. Let's exert some real power that has been absent from humanity, that nobody told us about, that we can change physical reality. We can change a thing. So that's really where I'm going with that. So then the next question is about sovereignty, right?
The bigger picture of us coming out of being victims in all areas of our lives, or being dictated in all areas of our lives, and stepping into our own power in whatever iteration or whatever that looks like.
And when she's done, can I touch on that about being a victim of that? Because I think sometimes our people don't have the knowledge. And I don't think it's them being victims of the circumstances. I think it's really like they don't know. Like there's people that really don't know brown rice is more nutritional than white rice. That's how they grew up. That's what they could afford. So I just think, bringing this knowledge to people that they don't know could open up a whole line of things for them.
Exactly.
So I can just, whatever one you want me to talk about.
Tell me
what you want.
Sorry, I was a little.
I'm good with all. I think it's all great. I think it's all. Just tell me what you want me to speak on.
Go ahead.
The idea of, because this fits in with the idea of sovereignty. We cannot be sovereign beings depending on someone else someone outside of our chosen family or tribe to produce for us. We can't be sovereign. That's an illusion. Sovereignty's definition is that you can do for yourself. But that doesn't mean you personally, like maybe you will join this tribe and then we do for each other, and then you know what I know and I know what you know. And then that makes us all greater. And then our children know what they would not know otherwise. And we're all in harmony with moving that forward. That's sovereignty. Yeah. So everyone who's in this room is in some level of matriculation in the process of joining on to others who can then make and expand them as we expand ourselves, because the greater you are, the greater we are. You know, we're all one in that. What happens is that ignorance means to ignore the truth. It means that we are ignoring. It's not the insult that we think it is. It's like, oh, you are ignoring, you 18-year-old boy, you are ignoring a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not calling you ignorant, but you're not paying attention to brushing your teeth and cutting your toenails. You're ignoring a whole lot of things that are going to get you in trouble in a minute. You know, so I mean, it's just that I use that example because I have lived that example. You know, so this idea of we ignore the idea that we should know about food. We don't know about rice because we don't care. Mm-hmm. We just want to be full, and we want that Chinese, and we want it right away. Mm-hmm. You know, so the idea is that what you said is absolutely true about the concept about they don't know about quinoa, they don't know, and that was on purpose and by design. So we have been our freedom has been stolen from us, and we have been silenced. Many of us did know, indigenous people did know, because they were talking to the food. They weren't talking to the herbs. They knew what was what, but that was stolen from us. The form of shamanism that I learned is Peruvian. And in Peru, before the conquistadors came, the people of Peru lived on plateaus that were sometimes only 12 foot wide, and a family would live there, and that was all the land they had 12 feet across. And they had learned to grow quinoa. And quinoa, which was a gift from creation, quinoa, the birds wouldn't eat it because it would make the birds sick. So if they planted it, the birds didn't eat it up. So then it grows in so many tiny little beads that all they needed was 12 foot of space, and they could feed themselves for a year. Mm-hmm. Then they could turn it into flour, and it had so much calcium they could use it as a cast. So when they were running long distance runners from one village to another on the mountaintops in the higher elevations, they carried something called war balls, which was like fat and quinoa. And as they got hungry, when they were running, they'd pop a war ball in their mouth. And when they got to where they were gone, they were highly nourished and ready to go. When the conquistadors came, they said it was against God's law, according to them, because the people were so grateful and so in reverence of the quinoa. They were like, oh, thank you, quinoa. We're so glad we got quinoa. And that was their main dish. So they said they would cut off their hands if they were found, and they burned all the quinoa fields. And then all the wise people moved to the higher elevations where the conquistadors couldn't get up there, where there was not enough air for them. And they continued to grow quinoa. Yeah. And the other people started to grow potatoes and corn, and they started to have birth defects, and they started the beginning of the process of humanity's position now, where we find ourselves. So this kind of understanding that we knew, but it has been stolen from us. Yeah. And we have been silenced. They have shut us down and threatened us and killed us because we had the magic food. You know, I used to teach classes on magical food in Hawaii every 4 months. And some of you who are in the room have been there. There are magical foods that we need to be in relationship with because we magical people. So this is the answer to, like, yes, we are victims. It is our own desire that allows us to open the gates to not be victims. We have to want to nourish ourselves. When you talk about white rice, and it has so little nutrients, and it turns into mucus before you finish chewing it. You know, yeah. You're coughing up fur balls before you even finish. Black rice, called forbidden rice, was cultivated in ancient China called forbidden rice because only the emperors could eat it. Everybody else was going to be killed if you were caught eating black rice, because black rice had all the magic and all the nutrition. And there was only going to be a small amount of it. So regular people, you all eat the white rice. The emperors, they're going to stay beautiful. They're going to be strong. They're going to be wealthy. They eat the black rice. So this information is available because I found it. But it's because I wanted to know how to nourish myself because I had cancer. I wanted to heal myself. I needed to turn my life around. So I got into relationship with food in a very deep way. And then that relationship helped me be who I am. So I encourage you to know that we are self-imposed victims through our lack of interest and desire in our own beingness.
No, and I hear that. I definitely understand that. I think sometimes it's not even the food, it's raising the vibrations within ourselves.
Which is raising the vibration in the food. It's our cousin.
Exactly. I'm just saying there's people that are emotional eaters and they can eat, you know what I'm saying? And they're going through a hard time right now, and then they go get ice cream and chips and this and that because they're not realizing that just because you're not okay or you're having a bad day or you're having a bad period doesn't mean you have to go towards junk food. You can still feed your body with vibrational foods, but I'm saying day-to-day people that aren't, practicing this and of this life, that's not their, you know what I'm saying?
I do.
It's a hard, if you're not day-to-day raising the vibrations within yourself, you're going to make those choices that are not good, whether it's food or anything else along that.
I'd like to offer a solution.
Mm-hmm.
What I have found is that when a group of people get together and we all move in one direction, we change the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's my solution.
Yeah.
Like, be the one who knows, be the one who's interested, be the one who wants to know what your child eats, be the one who wants to know what's the best thing, be the one to investigate, be in the field of communion with that which heals and helps you.
Mm-hmm.
And no, our world is not like that now.
Yeah.
No, they're not. However, every person who decides to be then gives an opportunity for the rest of the world to be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you are not powerless.
Mm-hmm.
You are not without influence. You are not the only one who can know. You know, we know. I see you looking fabulous. I'm like, what you doing?
Yeah.
Tell me what fabulous thing you're doing. And you tell me, and then I get to be fabulous too. This is, and then because we all have people in our houses, like, I'm not eating that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, don't. Then that's more for me. Like, don't try to make anybody do anything. Just eat it and be fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
So
think better, feel better, look better, have more energy. And if, the sun shines on the evil and the good.
Mm-hmm.
If they want it, it's available. If they don't, it's okay. It's all right. We have to have that situation of not trying to make anybody do anything. Just make ourselves do what we need to do to be the best, to be in gratitude for the life we have to live, to be in gratitude to Creator, to know who is our Father. Do we remember the face of the Father? Do we remember the face of the idea of the greatness that is us? We can't do that in the basement on the internet. And all of you all know what I mean.
I
Yes.
want to make sure that if there's anyone who has a thought or a question, we will keep it brief, but you have opportunity to speak. So if anyone does, feel free to go ahead and kind of poke your hand up and we'll call you if you have a thought or a question on this subject. And even just to kind of say amen or whatever you'd like to say. I would like to say while anybody decides if they like to speak, something that I thought about when we're having this discussion about the experience of if we are victims or if we are empowered or how we become empowered. First, it's extremely powerful, the concept of the idea of by us working on or empowering our own selves, we give everyone else a chance because we become more impactful, brighter, more, as you say, attractive, more all of the things that can inform not just the field, but the person looking at us, that this is the direction I want to go. For forever, humans have been looking to others for guidance for forever, and that's why we have such a big thing in our cultures and religions and all these type of things. It's always been the case, and it always will still be, that there are inspirations. There are people who are lights and inspirations and or influential forces, and if we can become that through our own willingness to empower ourselves or interest in empower ourselves, I see that encourages me a lot in the idea of it's less about getting each person to understand. I wish we would just understand this and that and the third, more so getting ourselves to be it, and how powerful and impactful that is. And on the other side of it, I always say or think this, and I kind of try to remind myself of these things, but it's no consolation. You don't get any prize for being the person who something happened to. You don't, and what I mean by that is like, it always trips me out when I'm driving on the street, especially in the city or whatever, and there's somebody riding a bicycle and they're riding it a little too brave while there's cars riding up and down. And I'm thinking like, yes, you might have some rights, but your life is going to be over with a broken leg, or your life is going to be way different. So whoever, all the people that's going to say, oh, I'm so sorry, I feel so bad for you, you're still going to be the one who's affected the worst by your own choices. So there is no, whether someone did something to you or not, whether you knew or didn't know, there is no consolation about it. When our lives are over, there is no, you try, baby, and that's it type, and that changes anything. So it also reminds me of the importance of me stepping more into being committed to my own well-being rather than just feeling like I'm a good person, so I deserve good stuff, and I'm sure good stuff will happen. That kind of demeanor about it, which is easy to for, especially for me, you know, I know with my own thoughts that it's easy to easily go right into that kind of thing. Oh, good stuff will happen because I'm kind of around good stuff and I'm doing good stuff and I have a good heart and all those kind of things. I'm encouraged to step more and more into the actions that pave that clear way for success for me.
I think that's perfect. It makes me think of the people saying, well, they know what's in my heart. Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And ain't nobody gonna give you nothing.
You know, like, we'd have to have open heart surgery to discuss
that. Do we have anybody who wants to say anything? Any thoughts, questions, comments, anything? Yes, sir.
Just a couple of quick thoughts. So I want to co-sign on several things and bring it together. Like making the information as accessible. These tools are so practical that if we continue to bridge that gap that you're talking about, that's the way that we first lead by example, empower the others around us through being that example, and being willing to answer their questions when they have them, and create a bigger community that we can stick together around. I think that's what a lot of this is about, and I love the dialogue, so thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much.
Yes,
sir.
To speak on the reference LaOta was looking to make. So some of you know, some of you may not. When I first started working with LaOta, I was raw vegan, and I was a native to Miami, and then I moved to Chicago, different climate, raw vegan. Cold. And I was not equipped with clothing. All the clothes and loafers. Trying to make this picture for you. So you can see from Florida. From Florida. And so I moved there, and I'm trying to live this lifestyle. And my partner at the time, she lived that lifestyle too, but she was a native, Chicago, not Florida. So I'm there, and I'm getting sick. It's really affecting me. My biology, I'm getting smaller, shrinking, losing muscle mass, and there are pains in my body that I just can't stretch out. So, you know, usually people, when we're eating, it's those who are pursuing like veganism or raw foodists in some type of way, there's an emotional component. Like, the animals or this or that, and it kind of overrides logic because in that moment, like, I'm getting hurt, but I'm still going with this diet and not saying it's not the best. But gotta be vegan, right? So she's talking to me and she shared with me these same stories about how the indigenous would eat meat, and however, their reverence and respect for the animals was so different. It's not like us today where we eat a little bit and then throw it away. There's reverence and respect for every aspect of it, and it changed my perspective. And I began to introduce some of the foods that she was talking about, like bison, lamb, wild-caught salmon, quinoa, bone broth, things like that. And within like 2-3 days, pains in my body began to alleviate and remove completely. And I gained more muscle mass again. And it's funny because she has this saying, she's like, Tavares, you're phasing in and out of this dimension. No lies were told.
I want to comment on that. I was on the phone with him and he was like disappearing. I'm like, you need to eat some meat.
Right, get some meat in it.
Because you're in a cold climate, you're not used to it. You need just a little bit of clean protein to bring you back into dimensional space.
Can you translate what that means for those that really aren't comprehending that?
What's happening is that his morphic field was thinning, and what would have happened is he would have become sick. So I could identify the pre-condition because I'm about food, so I could see the nutritional deficits. And I had known him previously before I went to Chicago, so I knew what it was like to feel his energy pattern on the phone, and that wasn't what it was. So his normal state had been interrupted, and there are factors. One, women and men are not the same. The needs and the requirements for the muscle mass are different. There's different testosterone and estrogen need different things. And what was good for his girlfriend was working fine for her, wasn't right for him, but they were eating the same diet. And it wasn't working for him. But I didn't really have all of that information. I was like, you phasing in and out.
Can I ask my question in line with that? There's a lot of people that follow the eat right for your blood type. Does blood type then also fall into that? Is that
Did you ask that because you knew I wrote a book on blood typing? My first book I wrote was it was Food for Life, proper food combining and blood typing. That was the very first book I wrote 30 years ago. So yes, blood type is good. The issue is that we really need the food to be the food, for it to work with your blood type. So when I was raising Ahad, when he was growing up, there are 4 different blood groups, and the children at the table in the morning had 4 different blood groups. So I had to that's how I ended up writing the book, is because I had to become really expert at what blood type foods each person got during that time, so that I could feed the children. So my children were raised during that time through their blood type and proper food combining, which is no small trick.
Wow.
I'm not recommending it. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I think you're better off now sticking to the foods that we've identified. But at the time, I was looking to what would be the best nourishment for each blood type, for the O blood type, which is really a hunter-gatherer. That's what I am. So I'm good with raw, what a hunter-gatherer. They eat raw foliage, and then they have meat from some source. That's that's O blood type. But the AB blood type is one that blood type came into being during the time of farming. So that blood type does better with something like bread than I do. Bread is like something that's crypto for me. It's made me sick in the past without me realizing it until it was too late. So each blood type, that was how I was able to define it. So what I would say now is that blood typing, food combining, these are all iterations of something that's part of the truth. But the truth of the matter is that you will know what foods are good for you if you commune with them. And if you ask the real food to be right for you, it will come forward for you if it has not been too contaminated or been stepped down too many times. So this is I would say this is an evolution from where I was. I don't reprint that book because I've learned more since then, but I'm not saying it's wrong. Makes sense. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
I'm
And
glad. Go ahead. What was you about to say?
Tavares wasn't finished. We interrupted him.
No, I wasn't. However, I do like the way how creative something. So I'll conclude by saying my food lifestyle is a little different. Some of you who are close to me know that I barely eat meat now, but it's not demonized. I listen to my body. I speak to the meat. I eat the cleanest types of meat. And I know when to hold back, for example. Aha, it was so generous of him. He made lamb chops the other day. And guess what? I had a lamb chop. Just a single one, because that's all my body needed. And I could feel my body like, oh, you just been on smoothies and air. And it's a lamb chop.
Yeah.
And the body's like, that's it. And I'm like, okay, we good. So I enjoyed it, but I knew my body assimilated. My body got what it needed. So I want to conclude and keep it short and brief by saying my lesson in working with the Sun has taught me to not treat food as a religion or as this one-size-fit-all type of cult following, and do what's meant for your design, because there are various factors that are involved that would determine what's right for you. So we all honor it.
I really like that comment about this idea of treating, any particular genre being worshipped as a religion instead of with the intelligence of knowing what is it that my body needs. Who are my ancestors? What did they eat? What do I need to eat to make sure my biology will work at optimum? That is a better way to look at how we consume food instead of, well, I heard something that sounded good. I'm rolling with that.
Yeah.
And that's really not the way to go.
Well,
So you were about to say.
Well, I was going to say, I'm glad that Delilah spoke, because next we're going to take a quick break, about 10 to 15 minutes, and then I'm going to have Dr. Delilah come up, and we're going to have a conversation concerning the bioenergetic treatments that she just did a couple weeks ago here at the Sun Dome, and that will be on the about the physical body and the things that the way that the modalities that she's found that interact with our bodies and will get us to places we want to go in our wellness journey. So I thank you very much for the time. Thank everyone for being a part of this.